Don't you forget who created the game. Ready for war, I was born with grenades. The trenches where soldiers are made. Let's see how you do.
What's going on, everybody? Today we are going to be painting the resin bait that we made the mold for and poured in the last video. If you haven't seen that yet, I will have that link down in the description below, or I will also have it pop up at the end of this video if you want to check that out. I did have a couple people had questions on the pen. The pen, I wait till the very end. I shorten the pen just a little bit and push it all the way in and then glue it in place. But right now I still want to be able to take the bait apart for clear coat. So I don't want that pen to be too short, which is why I wait till the end to do that final step. And as far as prepping the bait for paint, all I really have been doing is just wiping them down with some rubbing alcohol just to make sure that they're clean and free of oil or grease from your fingers. Final thing from the last video, somebody commented and said paint job should be something I've never seen before or something I haven't done yet. I don't remember exactly how they worded it. I'll have it pop up right up here at the top of the video. So what we're going to be doing today, I have a general idea, but it's a paint job I have not done yet. So hopefully I don't mess this up. I do know that the tail we're going to be using is the one that we made in our last video. So my idea is to get the paint job to match the tail. So the bottom half of the bait's going to be like a tan brownish color, and the top half of the bait's going to for sure be black. That way it matches the tail we made. First thing I am going to do though is do a nice base coat of some opaque white. All right, and with the base coat of white done, the next color we're going to be doing is going to be a transparent peach. Game plan for the peach is to do the whole bottom belly of the bait. I think that should match our tail color pretty close. So I'm gonna do the whole belly, bottom of the bait, and we're going to bring it up on the side of the bait just a little bit. We don't need to go too far. Again, we're kind of coming up with a new pattern here, so no specifics on this one. Next up, we're going to be doing some Wicked Gray. I think what I'm going for here is for the background or the scale color to be showing through is going to be dark. So I think the rest of the bait's going to be the Wicked Gray, and we'll have it fade into that peach at the bottom of the bait. Come back in with some stencil and do some nice detailed work as the top. And once the clear coat goes on, we should end up with a pretty juicy pattern. Hopefully, we'll see here. Either way, Wicked Gray, we're going to be doing that on the rest of the bait. And with our Wicked Gray down, next thing I'm going to do is be taking some transparent black, and I'm going to try to keep that up as high as I can. I don't want the black to come too far down the side of the bait. Okay, with the Wicked Gray done, next thing we're going to be doing is taking some transparent black. Doesn't necessarily have to be transparent, but I am going to be taking some black. And the goal is to keep it just on the top of the bait, and we'll have it come down on the sides just a little bit. I have a real bad problem of when I start spraying the black, I always end up making the bait way too dark. So I'm trying really hard on this one to keep it lighter, but I do want to transition from the peach into the gray and then to black on the back of the bait. I think that's all we need, because I'm going to be doing some more black with the stencil, so I don't want to get too carried away here. So I'm going to clean out the airbrush, hit this with the hairdryer, and then we're going to move on to some stencil work. Okay, it's finally time to move on to some nice stencil work on our bait here. What I'm going to be doing is this is the stencil that I make, and I will hopefully get these back in stock on my website soon. I'm having issues with it. My system didn't update, and for some reason I'm having issues getting it to cut the small version of the stencil, so I might just make the small version slightly bigger and get those restocked on the website. If you don't have this, there's also the one from Barlow's Tackle. I'll have that linked in the description below. I might use both of them in today's video. We'll see what happens here. I was thinking about using the finer pattern up on the gill plate and then using the larger pattern from my stencil on the rest of the bait. We'll just kind of figure it out as we go here. But my idea is to take some more black paint, and we're going to do this pattern on the top half of the bait here. And then we're going to come in with some like silvers and blues to do on the rest of the bait. Hopefully, once the clear coat goes on, it'll make all the colors pop and look juicy. So first thing I think I'm going to do is start off with some Wicked metallic white fine, and I think I'm going to do that along the belly of the bait. We'll come in with some silver and then finish it off with some black. Now, I don't really know exactly what type of fish we're going for here, so my other idea was to do some blue up on the gill plate. I'm not sure. We'll figure it out as we go. Either way, we're going to start off with the metallic white. Now, I'm not sure how well this will show up on camera, but we should definitely see it once the clear coat goes on. I'm just going to do one little section at a time here, wherever I can get the stencil flat. I think that shows up a little bit there for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and hit it with the hairdryer in between, so when I lay the stencil back down, I'm not smudging what we just did. Don't forget to dry your stencil too. And with the white still in the airbrush, I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same thing on the other side. All right, next up, we're going to do that Wicked aluminum. And I'm going to go ahead and take that all the way up the rest of the bait, and then we'll bring some black back down. I'm going to stick with the same stencil that we've been using. Flip it over and repeat the same thing on the other side. And I think while we're here, I want to do some of the scale pattern, or some of the stencil pattern on top of the black on the back of the bait. So I have made some 3-piece wooden versions of these. These ones are made out of wood. So that one's in like your typical basic shad pattern, and this one is using that Wicked silver flare color. But I really liked on this one how I did the shadow behind the gill plate there. I think it makes the gill plate pop. So I'm going to try to do that on this one as well, because as you can see, it all kind of blends together at the moment where the gill plate and the rest of the body is. So I'm going to start with that, and so I'm going to start with that part, and then we'll move back into adding possibly some other spots in black. I don't want to get too carried away and make a mess, but we definitely need to separate where the gill plate and the rest of the body is. And I've already lost, oh, there it is. So I'm going to just use the same stencil that I'd use for those, and we're going to be spraying some black. When you're doing detailed work like this, it helps to turn your air pressure down a little bit. So I think I'm right about 25-30 psi. We're also going to darken up where the fin is. Now I always try, I've done this on several different stencils before, I always try to do it darker up at the top, and I always mess this up. So maybe, just maybe this time, we can nail it. Okay, that's pretty good. I like that. I think once the clear coat's on, that's going to help. And I think while we're here, I'm going to just take our same stencil that we were using, and kind of hold it in place and try to darken up where the little lines and the gills are there. And one last thing I'm going to do on this side is I'm going to darken up just around the eye socket just a little bitty bit. And I think I'm going to go ahead and come in with a slightly smaller stencil and do some black speckles up front here. And then we're going to carry those along the back of the bait. There we go. I think we're looking pretty good. I'm kind of undecided right now if we should do a shad dot. Kind of a weird colors for a shad, I guess, but I'm going to go ahead, while I'm thinking about that, I'm going to go ahead and do the exact same thing, all the shading we just did on the other side. I think I'm going to go ahead and add a shad dot. And I think the shad dot we're going to do, let's see if I can find it real quick. I think we're going to do this shad dot. It's kind of like a weird abstract shape. So I'm going to go right behind the gill, where the gill plate comes to a point. I'm going to go right there. Alright, I think I got one more thing I want to do with the paint for clear coat. And I think I want to shoot some red up on the mouth of the bait and kind of have it fade into our peach on the bottom. Alright, I'm going to call it quits there, or I'm going to get carried away. We're going to end up with a red bait. So I think that's it. I'm going to get the airbrush cleaned out, and then I'm going to show you guys how I make the eyes for these. And for the eyes, I just cut out the shape of the eye with the laser on a real thin piece of wood. Now that isn't quite fair for you guys because most people don't have a laser at home, so I'm working on finding the right tools that everybody could get that you can make your own custom eyes. So that'll hopefully be a future video. I'll have to do some more experimenting with that. But I think what we're going to do is I want some silver eyes. Some of these I have primed in white because I'm going to paint just on top of them. So I'm just going to look for, there we go. So two of them that aren't primed. So we got two basic wood ones. And this is something you can do at home. You can buy these sheets of, it's like sticker material, but it's the reflective and shiny. So you can make your own eyes with them if you cut them out, and I'll show you the rest of the steps here in a minute. But I think for this one, since we have so much silver going on and shiny colors, I think I'm going to use this one. So I'm just going to cut off, make sure that fits on there. Yep. And then just simply stick them on there. And then I'm going to just take a sharp X-Acto knife blade and we're going to run it right along the edge. So you should end up with something like that. I'm going to do a little bit more cleaning up on it. Just trimming these edges just a hair. Okay, so not perfect, but close enough. Should look good once we put the clear coat on it. Next, I'm going to take a flat piece of wood because we're going to be painting these and then putting some clear coat on them. So I need a good way to hold them. So I'm just going to put some double-sided sticky tape down. Put one eye over here. Another eye over there. And I did have my oily fingers all over them, so I'm going to go ahead and give them a quick wipe down. Because next, we're going to be adding some paint. Okay, so what I did was I made some little stencils here because I plan on making a bunch of these, so I'm trying to streamline the process. So we're going to lay this one down over top of the bait, or I'm sorry, over top of the eye. We'll spray our red, and we'll come back in with another layer, or with our other stencil, and we'll spray that in black. So it should give us a black eye with a red line on the outside of the eye. And then we'll come back in with our other one and do some black. So there we go. We got a nice black eye, a little red, thin line on the outside. All right, now we got the eyes where we want them. I'm going to let these sit out for a while and make sure they're completely dry, because the next step is going to be putting quite a bit of clear coat on them to give them that dome-shaped eye on them. So I want to make sure that paint's dry because that could affect the way the clear coat goes. So I'm going to hair dry these really well, and then we'll come back here in a little bit and I will show you guys the next step. There's two ways you can go about this. I'm going to be using the Alumilite's UV resin. You can also use like the normal one that we use, or you can also use the one that we clear coat the baits with. Doesn't matter. I have quite a bit of this stuff, so I'm going to go ahead and use this one. And what I do is I'm going to take one of these little squeegee guys, which you can buy these off of Amazon. You can get, I forget how many is in here, 25 or 30, something like that. Really, really cheap, and it's also good because you can just pitch them when you're done, or you can use it a whole bunch of times if you're doing a bunch of baits. So all I'm going to do, get some out of the big jar here, which it shouldn't take a whole bunch. And then we're just going to put them out right on top of the eye. I'm going to use the tip of the squeegee to kind of push it around, make sure it gets all the way to the edge. You don't want it running over the edge, but you do want it pushed all the way up. And I'm going to try and make sure that they're about the same height, because it will make the bait look kind of lopsided if one has more resin than the other. If you get a big bubble like that one, just take a little bit of heat and it'll pop that bubble right out of there. I'm going to take a look at these, make sure they're about the same. Looks pretty good to me. Try to get this over to the edge a little bit more over here. All right, now if you have a normal curing box, or Or like I said, there's a couple ways. You could also do this with normal like 2-part epoxy and do the exact same thing. If you're using Illumilite's the UV resin, you can either just throw this right into your curing box. Illumilite was kind enough to send over their small UV curing lamp. So for ease, I'm gonna set this right over top. And then I'm gonna go ahead and hit it for 120 seconds. I always like to make sure that it's completely cure, so I will probably do that twice. Another thing that I like to do is I'll take our squeegee or whatever we were using and set that underneath of there too. That way, if that's hardened, I know that our eyes are good to go. So I'm gonna let this finish. Like I said, I'm gonna hit it at 120 seconds twice just to be safe, and we'll get them glued into our bait. All right, that should be good enough. I'm gonna check this guy. Definitely hard, and so are our eyes. So next thing that we got to do before gluing them in is, because we're going to be putting more clear coat on top of these, you want to make sure that the clear coat's going to stick. So since these are super glossy and a glass-like finish, what I like to do prior to gluing them into the bait is I'll take some really fine sandpaper and we're just going to scuff them up. That way when we put the clear coat onto the fishing lure, it'll have something to stick to when it's on the eyes. So should look something like that. I'll get those little corner pieces off camera because this is kind of boring. But you guys get the idea. So I'm going to finish doing that and we'll get them glued in. All right, time to get these eyes glued in. Now I did these eyes where they're looking forward, so I want to make sure I'm not gluing the wrong one in. Looking back might look cool too. I think I'd have to change the way the eye is angled just a little bit. So we're going to go looking forward. Just going to add in some gel glue. And pop our eyes right into place there. And that red matches what we did there on the gill plate. And there we have it. One painted up custom resin bait along with some custom handmade eyes. I am going to get some clear coat put on this bad boy. I'm going to get the tail glued in. We'll shorten our pen, glue that in, and then we'll come back and take a look at what it looks like all finished up.